Oh, we on now? Okay. I think we're just about ready to get started. We do have a quorum. A couple preliminary matters. First off, if there are any non-voters here, if you weren't already directed to, please come forward and sit in the front section here because we only can count the folks who are registered voters. We don't have Ms. Coit here tonight to do her, I guess, biannual civil defense talk. And I neglected to call the Scouts to come to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So once we get started, we'll do that and get going. Okay. There being a quorum present, I hereby call this special town meeting to order this 28th day of November 2017. And if you will all rise, please, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we have the usual participants up here tonight. Myself, John Barrett, the moderator. We have Town Clerk Kathleen Spofford, our Board of Selectmen, Cindy King, Sue Lizio, and Gordon Clark, the Town Administrator James Kreidler, and for the Finance Committee we have, we got Lynn Pinkerton, Andrea Wood, Sam Grant, Jean Dilda, and Geraldine Bazikas. Right, so, and we don't have town council tonight, I take it. Okay. All right, customarily, we follow town meeting time. It is a book written specially for town meetings, and that's basically our Bible for procedure, if any questions come up. A couple reminders, please be recognized before you speak. I'll try to keep my eye out for anyone who raises their hand, and try to get everyone to have their say. Please direct all your comments and questions to the chair, myself. All motions must be in writing and submitted up to the clerk. If a matter is finally voted, it may be reconsidered upon a majority vote if the motion to reconsider is made this evening. If the meeting goes to a second night, the article which has been voted upon tonight may be reconsidered, but only with a 9/10 vote. If a vote tally is questioned, and if my ruling on the vote is questioned by 7 voters, the counters will be brought forward to take an actual standing count. If you're confused about any situation on the floor, we'll try to straighten things out. Please state your point of order and rise to be recognized first, and then state your point of order. You can interrupt the speaker if you're raising a point of order. If you may wish to make a point of privilege, which is a somewhat finer distinction about what that is, basically if you're uncomfortable or if you can't hear, it's not really about the parliamentary procedure, but some other factor that's affecting the meeting, you can rise also and interrupt the speaker. Explanation, folks, I think here probably all know what a motion to move the question by our practice is. If there has been sufficient debate and people are bringing up the same thing over and over again, a motion to move the question may be in order. It is not debatable. However, our practice has been that if you do want to make a motion to move the question, you can't be recognized to speak and then move the question at the end of your talk, thereby getting the last word in. Also, if there has been insufficient discussion, I may rule the motion to move the question out of order. Remember, everybody, to stay courteous. Remember that tonight we are being televised and it's being recorded for posterity. So let's keep everything calm and respectful. I guess I've already mentioned the guests, and it appears we don't have any guests, right? No one from the press here, out of town? Okay. All right. So I guess we're ready for the return of the warrant. Madam Clerk? Uh-oh. Hopefully we got one. Huh. Yeah, okay. It's that last page signed by Michelle. So. Is Michelle here? Michelle Dold? Okay. Okay. We're going to have to take a slight pause. And I will try to regale you with some of my fishing stories. No, won't do that. Everybody have a nice Thanksgiving? Good. I did, yeah. Too much turkey as usual, but have to start walking. Does anybody have any public service announcements they'd like to make?
Mr. Moderator? I do.
Okay, there we go. There's your entertainment.
I'd like to bring everyone's attention to the last page in your packet. As you'll see, that's a volunteer response form. We have a number of committees and volunteer opportunities within the town of Townsend. On the back of that form is not the list of committees, because that is being updated and that will be published on the website soon. But we have a number of committees that need to be refilled or added members, or committees that just need volunteers to help out. A couple of them that I'm involved in is the Disability Commission that we voted on at the annual town meeting last spring. And so far I've only had, as far as I know, one applicant. So we're not able to get the commission off the ground yet. So I'm still looking for volunteers to sign up to be a part of that very important commission, to talk about the needs of making sure that Townsend is able to accommodate our members of our disabled community. And also another committee I'm trying to get going again is the Community Strategy Development Committee, which we really need to fill. We have a few of us that are still on that, but we need a couple more so that we can actually have a quorum now and then, so that we can get the CDBG grants. It's really important that we have community input to get the important CDBG grants to help our members of our community that might need to get septics refixed, with those loans that come in now and then, and a number of activities that MRPC is able to help us get through the state. But they recommend that we have this committee so that we can document community involvement and input, and not just be a grant that we get. The state likes to see community involvement in that. And are there any other, if I could ask through the moderator, if there's any other committees that have a dire need for volunteers?
Mr. King?
I'm a joint in the Townsend Animal Inspector. I'm going to be going around probably next weekend or the week after,
Okay, thank you. All right, we do have the return of the warrant. I think we should get going with the meeting, but Ms. Sinclair, Moran. Okay, the Capital Planning Committee also needs volunteers. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Moderator, pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Townsend by posting up attested copies of the same at Memorial Hall, 272 Main Street at the center, West Townsend Fire Station, 460 Main Street in West Townsend, Police Communications Center, 70 Brookline Road, North Middlesex Regional High School, 19 Main Street, and Harbor Church, 80 Main Street, at least 7 days before the date of the meeting, as within directed. Michelle Dold, Constable of Townsend.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. I think we're ready to begin. Article 1, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury $23,000 to replenish the fiscal year 18 Finance Committee Reserve Fund, or to take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, Ms. Lizio.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash in the Treasury the sum of $23,000 to replenish the FY18 Finance Committee Reserve Fund.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Any questions? Don't appear to be. Appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay. I'll try that one more time. Unfortunately, we have the classical problem with aye and no is that ayes generally don't sound as loud as no's. So I'm going to ask for that again. It's a majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. And let me just caution folks, too, that it's not an element of yelling it louder. You know, try to use your normal voice to express your vote. Okay. Article 2. To see if the town will vote to reduce the fiscal year 18 Police Department personnel budget by $44,000 or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend the vote on Article 5 of the Annual Town Meeting 0502-2017 by reducing the FY18 Police Department personnel budget and its corresponding funding source, School Resource Officer Fund, by $44,000.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Mr. King. Oh yeah, please wait for the microphone.
Cannot hear you. No, you need one.
We got to let folks at home hear what you're saying too.
All right. I'm just wondering that with all of the problems that we have in the communities with kids breaking into cars, with the opioid crisis going on, is it really a good time to not have school resource officers in the schools where kids can learn who they are, they can go to them if they have problems? Is it really a good idea to reduce having a school resource officer at this time?
Okay, comment comes on the motion.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Kreidler.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. King. If you look at the handout from the Finance Committee, it I think does a good job of explaining what the article is about. We expect that we will have a school resource officer again beginning of the year. But what we've got going on now is we had projected receiving $80,000 from North Middlesex Regional School District to fund this position. For the past 6 months, we have not had that position in the schools, so we will not be receiving that half year of funding. So the Department of Revenue has asked that we make this adjustment, reducing the expected revenue we'll receive and the corresponding reduction in the budget. It does not impact staffing, and we will have the SRO effective at the beginning of the year.
Mr. King.
Well, I'll ask the same question. why don't we have a resource officer in there now? With all the problems that our society has right now, having another trusted adult in the school systems, I think is vital. I teach in a school system. We have resource officers, and the kids know that they can go to the officer. Just because that's Lowell and this is Townsend doesn't mean that we don't need an officer in there. We need officers in there, so I don't understand why we haven't had one in there for the past 6 months.
Okay, question comes on the motion.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Kreidler.
Through you again to Mr. King. I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. King, on the need for an SRO. There wasn't one my first budget that I did, and we worked to get one in there. The plan had always been to have one, but the one person we have certified in the department to do that job, because it requires a state certification, has not been available for the past 6 months to do the job. So it's not a lack of interest or lack of want, it's been an inability to fill the position.
Okay, is there any comment from the Finance Committee about this? They all see their recommendation. Ms. Messing.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Heidi Messing, Proctor Road. Can someone please explain to me where does the $44,000 come from? Was that originally put into the police budget for this, and now we're taking it out?
Question comes on.
We're taking it from the police budget, but was it originally put in there in the first place, and we're just balancing it?
Okay, that's the question. Mr. Kreidler?
Yes, through you, Mr. Moderator. The simple answer is yes. It was budgeted for the full amount for a full year, and we expected to get a full amount of revenue on the other side of the ledger. We haven't had the position in the schools, so we're not going to get the full amount of the revenue, so we have to make the corresponding half reduction in the budget. So it was in the budget, it's being removed for 6 months.
Okay, gentlemen, first row.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Brent Davis, Turner Road. Some may know who I am, some may not. I was the former school resource officer at North Middlesex Regional School District from September of 2016 to March of 2017. After my departure, it was filled with another officer from March until the end of the school year. I'm also aware of a memorandum of understanding that goes into the role for the SRO at the school. And the way it works is that the town invoices the school district pays those invoices. That payment, and correct me if I'm wrong, I guess I'm looking for some clarification, goes to the general fund. And then from there, that money is allocated. I'm hearing that that money did not go to the general fund, it went to a revolving fund. So my concern is that if we have an MOU in effect, why aren't we abiding by the language of the MOU? We've got $44,000 in a shortfall in a department that's decimated. And I'm not here as a law enforcement officer, I'm here as a taxpayer. It's being decimated. And we all have a vested interest in the school system, whether you have kids there or not. It's a vital, vital role, which leads me to the second part of 37P, which is a mandate that you must have a school resource officer. There's a key word in there called shall. Shall means you must obey, you must follow. Regardless of appropriation, if you're going to not have a school resource officer, the state police should be consulted to see if they can allocate a resource to have a trooper walk in the halls. And it's not just the high school, it's every school. So I guess it's more of a question and a statement. So I'd like to get some sort of a response if I could, please. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Okay.
Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. You're welcome. Mr. Kreidler.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you to Mr. Davis. First to your question, that's an incorrect assumption on your part that the funding goes to the general fund. That's a revolving account, and that's how we have the town accountant sitting behind you directly that can speak in more detail to that. But so what we've got is on the budget document that was handed out back in the spring, there's a page that shows the anticipated revenues. There's a line there that says we anticipate getting $80,000 in revenue from the school. We're not going to get that because we haven't billed it. You're correct. We get it once we submit a bill for having provided the service. We haven't provided service for 6 months. We're not going to get that money. But the assumption that it goes to the general fund is an incorrect assumption. It is, in fact, through the revolving fund. As to your point, not your question, there is a piece of language within the statute that you cite that says subject to appropriation. The word shall, you are correct, it is there, but subject to appropriation becomes an important component because that vests authority with the local communities. Now, if in fact the appropriation is not available and the school department doesn't have the ability to have an SRO, they can do one of two things. One, you're correct, they can ask the state police to come in. Two, they can seek a waiver. To my knowledge, I'm not aware of either of those having been done. But in terms of our responsibility, it is subject to appropriation. In this case, we did not have the funds available because we did not provide the service.
Mr. Shank.
If the school approved the money for us and it was appropriated, and whatever be the case that power to be decided we were not going to have a resource officer, I feel that falls on the Board of Selectmen and the town for not doing due diligence for our children of this community.
Mr. Moderator.
Comments come on the motion. Mr. Kreidler.
In response to Mr. Shank's statement, it was appropriated by the school committee into the school committee's budget. So $80,000 is in the school budget. If we provide a service, we then bill them, they then pay us. That's how it would come to this budget, where it would be under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. So the statement that this is the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen in terms of where the money is not accurate. It never got here because we never billed for it. The second piece of that is there is an interest in having an SRO. The one person that we have in-house on staff who is trained and certified has not been available.
Sorry, hold on. Mr. Shaka.
You said it was subject to appropriation? I'm sorry, Joe Shaka, Maplewood Drive. The town did appropriate the money. We didn't provide the officer. That's on us and the Board of Selectmen.
Comments come on the motion. Mr. Kreidler.
Mr. Moderator, thank you. To Mr. Shaka, through you. The town estimated a receipt of $80,000. The town now has knowledge that we're not going to receive it. The Department of Revenue looks at that and says, if you know you're not going to receive it because half of the year has gone by and you've not billed for it, you need to make your books balance. In order to balance a book, the same as in your house, it's not just one side of the ledger, it's both. So we need to have a reduction in what we expected to get for revenue and a corresponding reduction in what we budgeted in the police department budget in anticipation of getting that revenue that we now know we're not getting. I don't know of a simpler way. Perhaps the town accountant can speak to it in a different, with a different angle or in different terms, but it's a bookkeeping matter being required of us by DOR.
Okay, so if I can summarize something of what you said, Mr. Kreidler, as you said, it's a bookkeeping matter that doesn't reflect, it reflects the fact that we did not have a community resource officer for a period of roughly 6 months, and therefore we can't spend that money because we didn't provide the service, so we have to adjust our budget to show that that money is not being spent for that.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Sheldon. And
So,
Mr. Sheldon, just for the folks at home.
Steve Sheldon, 18 Horseshoe Drive.
Thanks.
So my question, well, I guess a statement and a question. So the school, we appropriated the funds, but we haven't billed the school. We knew from a Board of Selectmen who has got themselves so involved with the police department, I find it almost comical that knowing that they're not going to have a school resource officer at the beginning of the school year, that you didn't make plans to put one in a school. That is like a dereliction of duty on your part. So if you actually billed for the SRO, you would have got those funds. But you chose not to put that position in place, so really hurting our school system and more importantly, the kids. Now, instead of trying to become police officers that most of you are trying to become, why don't you think about the kids in the town, get somebody in place when you knew at the beginning of the year this was coming out, and put someone in place until that person came back. That's on you. You own it.
You got to be recognized, please. Sir? Okay, motion's been made to move the question and seconded. This motion, if it's approved by a majority vote, will cut off debate. No, two-thirds vote. Sorry. All those in favor of cutting off debate, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. No. I don't see that as a two-thirds vote, so debate will continue. Ms. Messing.
So if I understand this situation correctly, we're taking money away from the police department budget that went into a revolving fund. Did the money that went into the revolving fund end up in the police department's budget, this $44,000 or not?
The question comes on the motion. Ms. Lizio?
I'm not sure I want that one. I'd defer it to the town accountant.
Oh, okay.
The money from the SRO is put into the revolving fund, and from there we used it to support the budget. It's used as a funding source to support the budget and to pay the SRO out of the budget. We only receive $36,000 that we can use. So DRO, according to DOR, we need to reduce the budget and reduce the funding source by the $44,000 that we did not receive in order to set the tax rate. If we do not, the motion does not go through, we will not be able to set the tax rate. It's an accounting issue. It has nothing to do with whether we're putting an officer back in that position or not.
Ms. Lizio, I did.
I think it was decided that, we have to balance the budget. The ramification for not balancing the budget is that we can't set a tax rate in a couple of weeks. And if we can't set a tax rate, we can't send out tax bills. And if we can't send out tax bills, then we don't have revenue to keep the town going. Okay? But the $44,000 needs to come from somewhere. And because the $44,000 is associated with the police, it's being attached to the police budget. I may be wrong, but I think it could come from somewhere else.
Mr. Moderator?
All right, question comes on. I did see Ms. Messing first, and then Ms. King. Ms. Messing?
Well, if we can't get a police officer on our police force that can do this job, why are we taking money away from the police department budget to hire a police officer? I'd like to move to amend the motion on the floor to delete the words, reduce the FY18 police department personnel budget by, and insert in their place the words, transfer from free cash in the treasury.
Okay, I need that motion in writing. All right, while that's being brought up, Ms. King.
Well, what I was going to say, which I'll add to what I was going to say, but this is an accounting article. This is not a police staffing article. The issue is that this is now the end of November. There's one more month to the calendar year. July 1st to the present and through the end of the calendar year, we're not going to have an officer doing a job that I'm using the wrong terminology, but think of it as a detail. We've got a detail officer over at the high school that we're signed up to provide, and we have not provided that officer for the 6 months. That's already occurred. This is not about what staffing we want to do or we intended to do. We have this position that we budgeted for, and revenue we budgeted for. We expected to get $80,000 from the schools. We've got $36,000. We can't get that. We can't manufacture that actual income, so we've got we're short. Our budget is not in balance. We cannot set the tax rate. In fact, I believe when I saw Lori, our our accountant shaking her head at the amended motion. I believe that that will also, if that motion passes, we still won't be able to tax, because we now just moved the money. We moved the problem to another account. I think by putting free cash in there, we just added, another $44,000 into the problem. So if this amendment goes through, we
All
still
right,
won't be setting
I
the
think
tax
I'd
rate.
hold off on that until we have the motion, and then we can debate the motion. There is, I believe, a motion coming to amend the motion.
Point of order,
Ms. Lizio?
we're discussing now, I just want to make sure I know what we're on. We're on the amendment.
Right,
Is
but
that correct?
we are, and I guess we could continue to debate that. I'd like to get the motion so I can read it so everybody can know what we're debating.
Okay.
And if you could indulge Ms. Messing for a few more moments, I think we'll have a motion, and then I think we can better understand what we're doing. Maybe you understand it better, I don't. Okay, this is the motion to amend Article 2. I move to amend the motion on the floor to delete the words "reduce the fiscal year 18 police department personnel budget by," and insert in their place the words "transfer from free cash in the treasury." So the article, or the motion would read, to see if the town will vote to reduce the fiscal year 18 police department personnel budget. No, I'm sorry. To see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash in the treasury transfer from the free cash in the treasury $44,000.
Mr. Moderator?
Yeah, Ms. Lizio.
I think my comment is on the motion. Normally, we would be able to say, take money out of free cash to pay for something, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce our expenditures by $44,000. So we have to find a place to take that $44,000 from. Okay? Taking money from free cash is actually adding more money in to the imbalance. So my suggestion would be to take it from somewhere else, if that is the case. Okay? So, but I know that the town accountant worked with DOR on this, so could we hear from the town accountant again, please?
Comments come on. The town accountant can hopefully address this.
That motion still leaves us out of balance. You need to reduce, everything needs to be done equally. So all it's adding is free cash in there. We didn't reduce anything, so now we have too much revenue, and we're still out of balance.
Right. You're not balancing the books.
Right, still not balanced.
Basically. Mr. Shank.
Mr. Moderator, I guess question for the board, and before we vote on this, we're taking $44,000 out of our budget for our resource officer. If I'm not a stupid man, I would probably say that they're trying to eliminate our resource officer in that school, or let me ask the board, is there a plan that your 6-month person that's been unavailable, is he going back as our resource officer? And when?
Okay, question comes on the motion to amend. It's a little bit outside the motion, but I'm going to allow it if someone could answer Mr. Shank.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Kreidler.
Through you to Mr. Shank. There is no intent to not have or not fund the school resource officer. Moving forward, the second half of the fiscal year, the intention is to have an officer assigned to that position. Whether it is the officer that is certified currently and is not currently available, or another certified officer I can't speak to, that's a decision of the chief in terms of assignment under the collective bargaining agreement. But there will be an SRO moving forward. That is the plan.
Okay. A gentleman over by the camera should...
William Wood, 8 Old Meeting
Yeah, I'm
House
sorry,
Hill.
Bill. Yeah.
The issue appears to be that $80,000 was budgeted specifically for school resource officer in the police budget to be reimbursed by the school as part of their budget. For 6 months, for personnel issues, there has not been a school resource officer there. So we're reducing that line item to cover the rest of the school year for the school resource officer that will be provided. I believe this summarizes it. We're not taking out a school resource officer. We are not cutting police pay, etc. We are providing the school resource officer for the remaining period of the year with the remaining $36,000 that is in the budget. But we're not getting the $44,000, haven't provided the service. That comes out of the budget, and the $44,000 comes out of the $80,000 budgeted for that position, unless you want to pay the school resource officer $80,000 for the remaining 6 months.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Ms. Lizio.
I'd just like a nod from the accountant. My understanding is we set up an account to get money from the school, and from that account we pay, in essence, our budget back. Okay? So it's not that it's budgeted in the police department budget, it's paid out of that account but reimbursed then from the school, from that account. I would like, I don't know if it's possible, but do you allow an amendment on an amendment?
Well, I think it might get a little bit too complicated. I think we really ought to deal with this amendment.
Well, because I think I have a solution to it.
Well,
You see, my concern
amendment.
is I don't believe that the $44,000 has to come out of the police budget. I think it can come out of any budget.
But it seems to me what the accountant is saying, it has to come out of the police budget,
No,
because that is where it was budgeted, and that money is not being spent.
No, that's where it was being paid from.
Okay, I'm going to go to a higher authority. Mr. Rahala.
I move the question. My name is Gene Rauhala, 57 Barker Hill Road.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rahala. All right. Motion's been made and seconded, I believe, to cut off debate. This is on the motion to amend. That's
correct.
Right. On the motion to amend, cut off debate on this motion to amend. All right. All those in favor of cutting off debate, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. Okay, we're back to the main motion. If everyone remembers what that was. To see if the town will vote to reduce the fiscal year 18 police department personnel budget by $44,000. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. We cut off debate. So now we have to vote on the motion. Thank you. On the amendment. All those who approve the motion to amend Article 2, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. Okay. The noes have it. So now we are back to the original motion. Does anybody want me to read that over again? Okay. Anything further to be said, Mr. Shaka?
Mr. Moderator, to the town accountant to answer Mrs. Lucio's question, can it come from another line item in the budget?
And Mr. Moderator?
Yes, the SRO is used as a funding source for the operating budget. We do not have to technically take it from the police budget. It can come from elsewhere, but there has been no one in the position for 6 months, so they haven't used that portion of the budget. That it was meant for the police department budget to fund that position. And since there hasn't been anybody there in 6 months, they do have available funds in their budget to reduce it by. So no, I mean, they still will have sufficient funds in the budget to fund all the police officer positions that need to be funded, even the SRO, for the next 6 months.
Okay, so just so I can clarify this, if this money is going to come from someplace else, where is it going to come from? In other words, it has to come from some other department. Okay. Any volunteers? Mr. Sheldon.
I'm actually trying to figure out how we got to this point, because you knew in September that you were going to have a short. How did you get here? And why didn't anybody contact the state police? Because if you contacted, like Officer Davis said, you could be billing for this and have the revenue, and guess what? We're not standing here discussing this. So somebody dropped the ball.
All right.
So really my question is, why wasn't the state police called?
All right. Ms. Jackson.
Jane Jackson, 14 Blood Road. I fear that we're using this meeting as a bully pulpit. Can we just move the question?
Take that as a motion to move the question. Mr. Rahala, I'm going to...
Since she made a comment beforehand, I would like to also move the question.
Okay,
at this
all right.
point.
You cured that gaffe. I was going to overlook it, but there is a motion to move the question, which has been seconded. Cut off debate on the main motion, and then we will vote on the main motion. So this is the motion to move the question. All those in favor of cutting off debate, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. So that cuts off debate, and we're now going to vote on the main motion. All those in favor of the motion on Article 2, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. We'll do the counters, I think. Save some time. Counters, come forward, please. All right. All right. All those in favor of the motion on Article 2, please stand to be counted. Yes. Voting in favor of the article, on the favor of the motion. Yes. I don't vote unless there's a tie. Yeah. That's what I understand. It saves. Probably not. Yeah, no, you're a taxpayer. How about you? By the way, I'm sorry about that. Okay, you guys. $24. Okay, everyone sit down. All those who wish to vote no on the motion on Article 2, please stand now. Ooh. Okay.
Okay, so
So,
that's what I...
yeah. All right, the vote is 70 in favor, 30 opposed. The majority vote. The ayes have it. Article 3. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $13,015.34 to fund the following bills from a prior fiscal year. The bills are laid out in the article. If anybody wants me to read them, I will, but otherwise I'd suggest waiving that. Anyone want me to read them? Okay. All right. You will get to hear it in the motion, however. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Ms. King.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash in the Treasury the sum of $13,015.34 to fund the following bills from a prior fiscal year. Vendors, number 1, Richard Cowell Tactical Police Department. Fiscal year was 15 for an amount of $425.50. Number 2, vendor is Comcast Police Department. Fiscal year 16, amount of $1,945.23. Number 3, the vendor is Zoll Medical. That is also the police department. Fiscal year 16, the amount is $96.76. Number 4 is again Zoll Medical Police Department. Fiscal year 16, $186.15. Number 5 is Power Phone Police Department, fiscal year 16 for $369. Number 6 is McGee Equine Police Department, ACO, Animal Control Officer, fiscal year 16, $910.37. Number 7, vendor is Axon Police Department, fiscal year 16, the amount is $69.37. Number 8 is Municipal Police Institute Police Department, fiscal year 17, amount is $1,080. Number 9, Verizon Police Department, from fiscal year 15 through 17, for an amount of $3,686.28. Number 10, Virtual Town Hall, the department is MIS, fiscal year 17, the amount is $1,667. The last one is number 11, P. Davis Emergency Services. The department is Facilities. Fiscal year 17, the amount is $2,579.68.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Appears we are ready to vote. This does require a 9/10 vote because it's paying prior fiscal year bills. All those in favor of the motion on Article 3, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. All right. Unfortunately, with a 9/10 vote, I don't think I can call it if it's not unanimous. So We'll try one more time. All those in favor of Article 3, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. All right. I'm going to ask the counters to come up. Oh, that's right. I will do that. Okay. All those, I'm going to reverse the order of the vote. All those voting no on Article 3, please stand. All right. Mr. Rebholz? Sorry. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All those in favor of the motion on Article 3, please stand. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 20, 21. Okay. We do the math. We have 3 voting no. And okay, you guys can stop once you get to 27. 28. You get 28 yes? How many? 35. Okay. All right. The motion passes by more than a 9/10 vote. Article 4. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury $250,000 to supplement the Capital Stabilization Fund or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion? Ms. Lizio.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash in the Treasury the sum of $250,000 to supplement the Capital Stabilization Fund.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there anything to be said on Article 4? It appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 4, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $50,000 to fund the additional capital requests contained in the revised fiscal year 18 capital plan as follows. $25,000 repair and or replacement and any costs associated thereto of certain audiovisual equipment in the meeting room between the library and the senior center, and $25,000 design, engineering, and replacement of the sidewalks in the town common, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Clark. Go ahead.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer from free cash in the Treasury the sum of $50,000 to fund the additional capital requests contained in the revised FY18 capital plan as follows. $25,000 repair and or replacement and any costs associated thereto of certain audiovisual equipment in the meeting room between the library and the senior center. $25,000 design, engineering, and replacement of the sidewalks in the town common.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Any questions? Okay, doesn't appear. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, Vicki Janicki, Old Battery Road. Just a question, if we take this money out of free cash, how much does that leave us? And
Question.
is it at a good level, is it a reasonable level if we do
Mr.
that?
Moderator.
Mr. Kryler.
Thank you. Through you to the question from the floor. For this current town meeting, we have certified free cash in the amount of $580,290. If each of the articles that have been presented go through, it would leave a balance of $244,000, and that would be an amount that we would hold until the spring for consideration of any extraordinary winter plowing operation expenses we have. So this is about right in line with what would be left at the end of a special.
Comments come on the question. Any further questions? Mr. Cadigan.
Bill Cadigan, Adams Road. Question on these sidewalks in the town common what's the construction? I mean, you're talking about doing design and engineering, which that's going to probably cost about the 25 grand, so that doesn't leave much for the bricks or whatever material we're going to use for the sidewalks.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Kreidler.
Thank you. Through you to the question from the floor. My understanding of the way the project has come to arrive at this amount before you is that communication between Roger Raposa, who is the cemetery and park superintendent, who has custodial care of the common, worked with the building commissioner to determine what the rate for flat work, concrete flat work would be, sidewalk work in our area. Took the linear feet, came up with the amount of square yards that it would take to do the project, and this is the budget that they came up with together. So I don't think it's traditional design and engineering in the sense of doing bridge work or anything like that. It's relatively simple stuff. It's flat work, it's sidewalks.
Okay, question comes on the motion. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 5, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court for special legislation in the form set forth below, amending the town charter to conform the makeup of the Housing Authority to state law, provided, however, that the General Court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to the bill, unless the Board of Selectmen approves amendments to the bill before enactment by the General Court, and that the Board of Selectmen is authorized to approve amendments which shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of the petition. And it reads, an act relative to the charter of the town of Townsend, be it enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives and General Court assembled, and by the authority of same as follows. Section 1, subsection 3-15A of Article 3 of the Charter of the Town of Townsend, which is on file in the Office of the Archivist of the Commonwealth, as provided in Section 12 of Chapter 43B of the General Laws, is hereby amended by striking out the following words. Quote, 4 shall be elected for a 5-year term by the voters, and 1 shall be appointed in the manner provided by the general law. End quote. And inserting in place thereof the following words. 3 members shall be elected for a 5-year term by the voters of the town, and 2 members shall be elected or appointed in the manner provided by the general laws. And Section 2, this act shall take effect upon its passage, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court for special legislation in the form set forth below, amending the town charter to conform the makeup of the Housing Authority to state law, provided, however, that the General Court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to the bill, unless the Board of Selectmen approves amendments to the bill before enactment by the General Court, and that the Board of Selectmen is authorized to approve amendments which shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of the petition. An act relative to the charter of the town of Townsend, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives in General Court assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows. Section 1, subsection 3-15A of Article 3 of the Charter of the Town of Townsend, which is on file in the Office of the Archivist of the Commonwealth as provided in Section 12 of Chapter 43B of the General Laws, is hereby amended by striking out the following words. 4 shall be elected for a 5-year term by the voters, and 1 shall be appointed in the manner provided by the general law. In inserting in place thereof the following words, 3 members shall be elected for a 5-year term by the voters of the town, and 2 members shall be elected or appointed in the manner provided by the general laws. Section 2, this act shall take effect upon its passage.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Up in the balcony, we got Ms. Kell, if you could move over to the microphone.
Veronica Calmetto Road. I guess my question is, how does in Article 6 after the semicolon, provided, however, that the general court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to the bill unless the et cetera, et cetera. How does that play into what's put in the charter? And why are those words there anyway? In other words, it looks like we're saying, okay, we'll conform to the law, but somehow, if they change the general law, then the selectmen can do all this funky stuff. So I guess I'd like a better explanation of what's going on here if we're putting that into the charter.
Okay, the question comes on the motion. Ms. Lizio.
Whenever you submit a petition for a special act to the legislature, their legal teams look at it to make sure that it's worded correctly. If it's not worded correctly, they're going to make changes before they vote on it. And then we would incorporate whatever edits they have into our final one. It's kind of like sending it to town council and saying, town council, take a look at this and tell us if it needs any editing. And because it has to do with the state law, and they're the ones passing the act, they have the authority to do that. This article is just about updating our local charter to incorporate changes that the legislature has already made for the makeup of this board. It's not because we came up with the idea. It's because our legal counsel said, you need to bring your law in line with the changes that the state has made.
So why are those words there? So why are those words in the article? Just because, if they do that anyway, and that's the process. Do you see what I'm saying?
Question comes on the motion. Ms. Lizio?
It's basically so that you, as you vote on it, know that it's subject to them making some edits.
Okay.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Mr. Shaka?
Thank you. The existing language says that one shall be appointed in the manner provided by general law, and we're replacing it with language that says two shall be elected or appointed in the manner provided by the general laws. Can somebody explain what that means? Will they be elected or appointed? Because you can't be both.
Questions come on the motion. One venture an explanation for that? Okay, Ms. Lizio?
Well, I'm going to try. But there was some back and forth for a recent appointment to that board, where even our town council was questioning some of the way that it was worded. So it's really at that level, it's at the state level where that needs to get clarified. We're simply doing what we need to do for our purposes. Our attorney didn't even know the answer to that question.
I think Ms. Spofford might be able to lend a hand here. Madam Clerk?
This year, during the annual election process, the state came down with a mandate that one of the elected positions not be filled by an elected position. It would be filled by an appointed tenant position. So the wording here is so that if there are any other changes made by the state, the town will be conforming to that without having to go through the whole process again. So they did change the makeup of the housing authority.
Question comes on the motion. Ma'am?
Muldoon, 57 Bayberry Hill Road. So I'm still confused about this because you said that if they do go to 3 members, they shall be elected for a 5-year term. Right now, we don't have a 3-member board. We do have a 3-member? Okay. But why is it need to be changed and why vote? Why do we need to vote and change this?
All right, I'll defer that to Madam Clerk.
Because it's a change in our charter. So in order for us to follow our charter, it has to be changed to follow Mass General laws. And right now, we do have a full housing authority. There's 3 elected positions, 1 state-appointed, and 1 tenant-appointed position.
Okay. Comments come on the motion. Anything further to be said? This appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 6, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Majority vote. Article 7. To see if the town will vote to amend the town's general bylaw 102 by adding a new section 102.5, section 102.6, and 102.7 as follow. 102.5, unlawful disposal of waste. If there is no objection, I'll waive that. It's a fairly detailed thing, so I thought maybe people would like to hear it twice. But if not, is there any objection to waiving the reading of the article? Okay. Probably have to find a way of phrasing that in the negative. But anyway, I take it, all right, if there's no objection, we'll waive the reading of the article and go right to the motion. Okay. Is there a motion for Article 6? I'm sorry, Article 7. It's no motion. Okay. Oh, Mr. King?
Oh, no, I got a question.
Well, let's get a motion first, because your question might not need an answer.
Okay, I'll
I mean,
shut
you
up.
might still have the question, and you might still get an answer, but...
Sorry.
Let's, is there a motion, Mr. LeQuire?
LeQuire, 171 Fitchburg Road, Chairman, Townsend Board of Health. I'm a little lost in the paperwork here. This is to see that the town will vote to amend the town general bylaw 102 by adding a new 102.5, 102.6, and 102.7 as follows. Now, do I have to read all of this?
Yes. We'll supply water if you need it.
Whoever places, throws, deposits, or discharges, or whoever causes to be placed, thrown, deposited, or discharged any waste in public way or upon any public property shall be punished by a fine of $200 for each offense. B, waste in the town of Townsend containers. Whoever with town authority disposes of waste by placing in a dumpster, cart, barrel, or other container owned, controlled, or operated by the town of Townsend shall be punished by a fine of $300. C, importance of waste. 1, whoever brings, disposes, stores, or places any waste from any location not eligible for curbside collection to a household shall be punished by a fine of $300. Each piece of waste shall be considered a separate offense. Excuse me. 2, whoever brings, disposes, stores, or places any waste, including construction and demolition, CRTs, and white goods from any location to any other within the town for the purpose of centralizing, dismantling, remanufacturing, disassembling, shall be punished by a fine of $300. D, banned waste restricted materials, unless otherwise specified under this chapter. Whoever places the curbside collection, any waste banned by the state or federal law, rule, or regulation, including but not limited to hazardous waste, hazardous materials, universal waste, sewage, ash, sludge, coal, cans containing paint or aerosol, mirrors, windows, glass, motorized equipment, motorized vehicles, any part, tire, and rims, motor vehicle production, oil, machinery, sumps, and all branches and limbs not defined as yard waste, electronic construction, and demolition materials, rocks, boulders, concrete, footing, asphalt, pavement, bricks, concrete, metal, and wood, sheetrock, plaster, lath, roofing, siding, insulation, chemical, explosives, or storage tanks shall be punished by a fine of $300. Each piece of waste shall constitute a separate offense. E, waste in or adjacent to a private controlled container, whoever within the owner's authority disposes of waste by placing it in a dumpster, cart, barrel, or other container owned, controlled, or operated by a private party shall be punished by a fine of $300. F, waste on private property, whoever places, throws, disposes, or discards, or whoever causes to be placed, thrown, disposed of, or discharged any waste on a private way or upon any private property shall be punished by a fine of $300 for each offense. 102.6, scavenging upon the curbside collection materials. It shall be a violation of the section of if any person other than the authorized agents of the town acting in the course of their own employment or contract, collection or causes to be collected by any waste so placed, each and every such collection in violation. Herefrom, from one more location shall constitute the separation and distinct offense of any violation of this subsection shall be punished by the fine of $300. 102.7 severely. I'm not good at this stuff. Sorry, folks. The position of this chapter,
You're doing fine.
severable, and can I have somebody else read this correctly? Would you read this for me? I'm shaking. I'm sorry. I didn't to do this.
Excuse me, I got a little bit of cold. Let's see. The provision of this chapter are severable, and the invalidity of any section or provision of these regulations as determined by a court of competent jurisdiction shall not invalidate any other section or provision thereof. Non-criminal disposition. Whoever violates any provision of this regulation may be penalized by the non-criminal method of disposition as provided in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 21D, or by filing a criminal complaint at the appropriate venue. Separate violations. Each day any violation exists shall be deemed to be a separate offense. Enforcement. Enforcement of this regulation shall be by the Town Board of Health or its designated agent. Any resident who desires to register a complaint pursuant to the regulation may do so by contacting the Town Board of Health and its designated agent, and the board shall investigate. Submitted by the Board of Health, Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Okay, good job. Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? Ms. Messing.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I actually have two comments. Section B, it says, whoever with town authority disposes of waste shall be punished. I think that should be without. Or whatever you do, don't throw anything in a town dumpster if after somebody tells you it's okay.
I think we can address that, but your second point?
The second point is, there's no really good definition of the term waste in here. Are we talking about A neighbor dumping a wheelbarrow full of leaves on another neighbor's property, is that waste? How about people throwing cigarette butts out their window, is that waste? We really ought to define what exactly we mean when we say waste, because that's a huge topic, a huge range of things that could be considered.
Okay, comments come on the motion, and I think speaking to the first point, I'm going to recognize Ms. Lizio.
Mr. Moderator, I move to amend Article 7 by changing the word with to the word without in section 102.5B.
Second.
Second.
Okay, I think that's a kind of a clarification. I think that was a typographical problem there. So, does anyone have any questions about that? If the amendment passes, Section B would read, waste in a Town of Townsend container. Whoever without town authority disposes of waste by placing it in a dumpster. So, is there anything to be said on the motion to amend? Mr. Page?
John Page, Smith Street. This is just a comment. When this warrant was addressed at a Board of Selectmen's meeting, I caught that error. I raised my hand for about 20 minutes, but the Board of Selectmen does not recognize the citizens of Townsend. I did point this out to the town administrator at a break, who had told me that it was going to be taken care of. So all of these last few minutes could have been addressed at a Board of Selectmen meeting several weeks ago.
Okay, comments come on the motion. All right, folks, let's stick to the town's business, please.
Mr. Moderator. Right over here.
I hear a voice, but...
There you go.
Mr. Kreidler.
Just very briefly to Mr. Page, he's correct that we did speak about it, and the change was made in the motions document that members of the board have. Mr. Leclerc didn't have that document, so he was reading actually from the warrant, which is where the original with versus without was placed. So the change was made to all the documents that the moderator and everybody at the table have.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm sorry. Right there in the back behind Joe. It's, Linda? Yeah, okay.
Linda Johansson, Birch Lane. Section 102.6 on page 6. Is there an S in front of hall?
Okay.
In the correct motion that says hall, not shawl.
Okay. We have one motion to amend, and we may need to take some others, perhaps, or we could perhaps take a friendly amendment to the motion to amend to correct that clerical. And I think it may be in the warrant that it doesn't read, it reads hall as opposed to shall, but I believe Mr. Leclerc did read shall. And if we have, do we have the printed motion that Mr. Kreidler referred to? I don't happen to have it on me right now. Do you have that printed motion? Oh. Okay. I think we better stick. Is that what he said? There's a lot of other things here, though, Madam Clerk, that I don't know that I don't know what he said per se. So I think that we're going to need to just take that amendment, and I guess I was referring to the article, the motion Mr. Kreidler mentioned that was printed up that made the correction for the without authority, and that's a document that's the article that looks like it was, Ms. Spofford has corrected it, but...
Mr. Moderator, this one has whoever without. It's in here, and the reason this has it is because this is what we got back from Town Council, and Town Council is the one who corrected that.
Okay, then I'd like to could we get that and have Mr. Leclerc sign that?
That's what.
Okay, does that... Okay. All right. Mr. Leclerc, could you sign this motion, please? Yeah, let's get that done. This printed, we're going to take the motion to amend. There's a lot of little things in here that I want to make sure we get one thing. Without, and this is shall. Okay, well, shall constitute. And here there's an extra of, so separate offense. Is that what you want them to do?
I think that would be the right thing to do, yes.
Okay.
Fix that.
All right.
When we do
Sign
initial
it.
those two, or just
Yeah,
sign it?
just sign it.
Date?
Okay. Hold on.
128.
Yeah, 11/28. Okay.
All right.
So that's a 7, right? Okay. Point of order. All right, Mr. Shank, I think the problem is that when the articles went out, they were printed in the original form that was later reviewed by town council. He saw some typographical changes that needed to be made. The thing that governs sometimes the motion, the article as printed is not exactly the same as the motion. That's why we have to have the motion. That's why I kind of wanted to read it. But in any event, we have a motion to amend what was read as the motion to change in section B the word with to without. And there are, as was pointed out, one other change of location. Should be locations shall constitute a separate offense. And in this corrected version from town council, there's one other typographical change in section D, the last line of section D, where it should read, each piece of waste shall constitute a separate offense, not shall constitute of a separate offense. So, I think to try to resolve this, I'd like to ask for an amendment to the amendment.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, we already voted on the amendment. So now...
No, I don't believe we did. No,
No?
I think Mr. Page made a comment on the motion, and then we found other things. So,
Okay. Could I amend my amendment?
yes.
Okay. So I move to amend the article as written in front of you, which is to change with to without, to add an S in front of hall, and what was the last one?
In paragraph D, or section D, there's an extra of.
And to remove the of in paragraph D.
Okay. All right. I'll take that as a friendly amendment to the amendment, and that motion to amend supplants the previous motion to amend. All right. Is there anything to be said about the amended motion to amend? Okay. I think we are all on the same page. So let's try to get this one out of the order, and then we can get to the further discussion of the merits of the article. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Okay, the motion to amend has been approved. It's before you. Anything further to be said about the main motion? Mr. Cadigan.
Bill Cadigan, Adams Road. I have some problems with section D. It looks like pretty much everything I put in my trash is illegal now. Well, for one, window glass, which is pretty damn inert, it's not hazardous except for sharp edges. It certainly doesn't take up much room in a landfill. If you break a window, what are you supposed to do? Should we bring it down to the selectmen and put it in their office? That would be transporting. Okay, but anyway, the other thing is the whole thing about paint cans, because I don't know, maybe it's wrong, but latex paint, you're supposed to open the can, let it dry out, and throw it in your household waste. It's not hazardous waste. So you've got paint here as generic. This is way too broad. Obvious things like explosives, I don't have a problem with that. And I'm sure the garbage man doesn't either. But, this thing needs some work. I don't think I can vote for it as it stands.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Anything else to be said? Mr. Jackson?
Mr. Moderator, Ray Jackson, 14 Blood Road. This was proposed by the Board of Health. Could they be recognized to speak about what they presented for us tonight in this article so we can get some clarification from the people who authored it?
If someone from the Board of Health would like to speak to Mr. Jackson's question, they certainly entertain that. Mr. LeQuire.
Thank you, everybody. This is going to be easier. What we've done is the years I've been 17 years on the board, by the way, and we've had issues with trash for forever. And trash doesn't go away. Trash is going to continue. We had to come up with some guidelines as far as illegal dumping, disposing of tires, couches, refrigerators, the big bulky stuff. People sometimes don't recognize what is something that can be recycled, what is something that can be taken down to the recycling center and for a minimum fee properly disposed of. And we're trying to get a venture here together so that everybody's on the same page, and we're doing Townsend's job of taking care of Townsend's trash. And we had to go with all these guidelines, which are a little bit bizarre, but that's the way government runs, I guess, is the best way to put it. And whoever places, throws, deposits, or discards any waste in a public way or public property shall be punished by a fine of $200. Now, are we going to have police out checking on this? No. But if a neighbor calls and reports you, and you can prove that that happened, take a picture or whatever, there will be an enforcement put in place there. And these guidelines are set to help all of the residents of Townsend and to properly discard of our materials that can't be picked up on curbside pickup. So does anybody else have, I guess there's a lot of questions. I'll just stand up.
Mr. King, I know.
I got a couple of questions. One question is, I don't think taking pictures is necessarily the best idea because we know that somebody does get in trouble if you take pictures of things, and so we don't want anyone getting in trouble for violating somebody's rights. But I do have a question about the scavenging of curbside collection materials. So the way I read this a couple of times now, and the way I understand it is, I'm driving down the street and I see a spinning wheel on the side of the road, and it's in the trash, and I stop and I look and I pick it up and I put it in the back of my car. Am I violating this law by picking up something that I can then take and reuse? Because looking at this, I'm violating the bylaw. So I'm wondering if that's a fine that I'm $300 that I'm going to have to worry about because the wheel's only worth $250. So that's one question. Another question is, who decides in a country where we're supposed to have free rights what one man's trash and another man's treasure? Because my wife and I have had many debates over what is trash and what is treasure. Because sometimes I think what something pretty special, she says, is a piece of junk, and I might have brought it from my friend's house and brought it over to my house, so I'm just moving it from one side of town to the other. But So I'm just wondering, who is the one that gets to determine what is trash? And did I have any other questions? I do understand about the bringing stuff from out of town in, and I think that's appropriate. We shouldn't let people do that. And I think, most people understand that tires and rims shouldn't go in the trash. Oil ought to be taken down the town barn and burned. But, a lot of this stuff, most normal people would say that doesn't go in the trash. But, I'm just wondering, because I had a good friend pick up a $300 spinning wheel out of a town that was nicer than this in a trash pile. But now, because it was in a trash pile and she brought it to Townsend, and I'm spinning on it, does that make it a violation?
All right, comments come on the motion. Some other comments. Do you want to respond to that, Jim, or do you want to take it?
I would like to add to that. We can go all over this all night long and all day tomorrow, but the purpose of what the Board of Health is proposing to the town of Townsend is just better everybody's ability to get rid of trash. Now, once that trash goes to the curbside, that becomes property of Shaw's, okay? As soon as you put it out on the side of the road, you're off your property line, it's Shaw's property. And the problem with the people going around opening the containers and pulling out 5% cans, we've actually had people in that act that have done that, and they really can't do that because that's Shaw's property. So common sense is the factor here, and this is just guidelines so that if there's any situations, it's going to benefit everybody. And at this point, I'd like to make a motion to move the question.
Can't entertain a motion to move the question after a speech. Mr. Rideout.
Yeah, Bill Rideout, 88 South Harbor Road. I appreciate the point of this. I certainly see it's a good idea, but there's certain things just, that do not seem clear enough for me to really vote for it. Especially the word chemicals. You can't put chemicals. I mean, as a scientist, you look at your trash, everything's chemicals. I mean, that word, you cannot be more vague than the word chemicals. I do agree we need some bylaws about what should go in the trash and how it should be handled. I'm just not comfortable with the specificity in this particular motion. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator.
What's your point of order?
I would like to know if, what I would like to do is to ask that this be committed back to the Board of Health, and I don't know if that kind of a motion.
I don't think that's a real point of order. Sorry.
I was just asking if it was appropriate.
If you could, but you could. Mr. Cloutier.
Yeah, first of all, I want to acknowledge that Jimmy Leclerc knows what he's talking about and he knows what he's doing, and thank you for all the work you've done over the years. I have a question. It seems to me that we have most problems with Section D, which is very vague, I have to say, and very broad. Basically, anything you throw away is banned. And 102.6. So I asked Mr. Leclerc, through the chair, this question. If we amended this motion and deleted Section D of 102.5 and deleted 102.6 in its entirety and passed all the rest of this, which is really good stuff, could you live with that? That's my question.
I don't know if Mr. Leclerc wants to respond to that, but I do want to recognize the person over here who's had her hand up repeatedly. And
Valerie Goodrich, 128 Haynes Road. I'm just wondering if this is equivalent to any other kind of regulations on disposal of waste in other towns in this area, if it was modeled after anything. And the other question I have is, on my road, almost every Saturday, someone will put out like a nice sofa that they don't need anymore, a window, all this kind of stuff. And usually on a Saturday morning in the summer, it's gone in about half an hour. I know I've gotten stuff from my house that way. I bet some of you have. I got an old antique couch in someone else's front yard. So would this have anything to do with our ability to do that? And then the question of, and relative to other towns, is this equivalent to anything that, Pepperell or Ashby might also have? Thank you.
Okay. Ms. King.
Yeah, I'd like to say some more things about 102.6. I doubt that, that it's illegal right now to scavenge curbside collection materials. I believe it doesn't belong to anybody once we put our trash out there. I know that scavenging for quite a few people out there, I'm sure many of you have seen them, do it for a living. They go around and they see what we put in our trash and they try to make something out of something that we've discarded. And sometimes we might see those very items on those Facebook yard sales or on eBay or on somebody else's yard sale that they're having in their yard. And a lot of people get a lot of enjoyment out of that. And I know over the years, I've seen it even in the Boston Globe, I think there was a story several years ago of towns that had competitions between neighbors, would see what kind of things that they could get on scavenging people's trash and come up with they'd have different categories. And sometimes it would be artwork or something, that actually, for those that are mechanical, that actually works, making something out of something else. But it's a pretty popular thing to scavenge curbside trash. And I know that on Saturdays, well, we have the free stuff out on the yard, but I don't think this is applying to that. But on the trash, I see them coming, and a lot of them are from New Hampshire. They're coming down from New Hampshire, and some of them are from other towns. And as far as I know, it is not currently illegal to scavenge in anybody's trash because we've disposed of it. We don't want it anymore. We've discarded it. It's not stealing from anybody. So if somebody came from another town and they went through our trash, they don't even know. It's not illegal until we make it illegal. And I'm really not comfortable with, personally, I'm not comfortable having this in here. It really concerns me. Not that I really want people going through our trash and personal things that are in there, but I'm sure that the scavengers aren't trying to go through the real garbage and the chemicals that are in there. So with that, can I make a motion? Am I allowed to make a motion?
As long as it's not a motion to move the question.
No. I was going to amend to remove section 102.6.
Okay. There's a motion to amend the motion by deleting section 102.6, and it's been seconded. So we'll work on that. We're working on that motion. Ms. Lizio.
I would actually like to move that we commit the article in question back to the Board of Health for further review and not vote on it tonight.
Okay, all right. I think it's similar to a take no action, but we do have another motion that's on the floor already, so I'd like to vote on Ms. King's motion. If that motion does not pass, we will take up the next motion. All right, all those in favor? If any debate about the motion to amend by striking 102.6, understanding that we might be recommitting this, if that's the tenor of the meeting, to the Board of Health for further revisions. Is there anything to be said about the motion to amend? Sir?
Motion in my favor.
Okay. All right, I think we're ready to vote. Ms.
I just have a question. It says that all three of you recommended it, so now why are you changing that?
All right. The selectmen have any? I'd like to just move on the question, unless the selectmen want to address that.
I changed my mind.
All right.
Me too.
Sir, in the back.
Brian Pinkerton, 40 West Elm. I make a motion to take no action and kick it back where it came from until it can be redefined.
Okay. Can I just ask the meeting if we can just vote on the motion to amend without taking a motion to move the question? We could debate this amendment, further if you want,
We gonna cut and paste all night long, or just?
Well, I'm just thinking, aren't we ready to vote on this motion to amend? Okay. So, I mean, if you have something substantive, but otherwise we don't have to do a motion to move the question if we're ready to vote. If someone has something more substantive they want to say, then I'll recognize one more person, then I'll take your motion to move the questions. If that's what we got to do, I think we could just vote on a motion to amend. Mrs. Johansson?
Yeah, just another comment for the board to consider. In section 1, whoever brings or stores, and then it says waste, and in waste is metals. How does that affect the individuals in town that may be doing scrap metaling for little extra business? Don't want to hurt them, so I want them to consider that.
Comments come generally on the overall motion, but let's just stick to the motion to amend by striking section 102.6. Anything further on that motion to amend? Not seeing any. All those in favor of the motion to amend say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. All right, I think the noes have it. The main motion is before you. Is there, oh no, I'm sorry, we do have Ms. Lizio's motion to recommit. This essentially would be a motion to send it back and basically take no action, sending it back to the Board of Health for further, perhaps, revisions. On your motion? I believe we did, yeah. Okay. Is there anything to be said on the motion to recommit the article to the Board of Health? Essentially, we'd be taking no action tonight on that matter. I don't see any hands. Appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion to recommit or commit to the Board of Health, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. Article 8, I think. Yes, Article 8. To see if the town will vote to amend the town zoning bylaw by adding a new section 145-89, which would impose a temporary moratorium on recreational marijuana establishments. And it is, I trust, as printed in the warrant. I don't believe there are any typographical problems, so I will ask all those who are in favor of my omitting the reading of the article, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed to my omitting the reading of the article say no. Okay, it looks like I can omit reading of it. Ms. Lizio, point of order?
I think there was one change, so whoever reads it might want to read this version.
Okay, is there someone here from the planning board to give the planning board's report? But we need a motion first. John? Okay.
I move the town vote to amend the town's zoning bylaw by adding a new 45-89, temporary moratorium on recreational marijuana establishments that would provide as follows, and further to amend the table of contents to add section 145-89, temporary moratorium on recreational marijuana establishments. 145-89. Temporary moratorium on recreational marijuana. On November 8, 2016, the voters of the Commonwealth approved a law regulating the cultivation, processing, distribution, possession, and use of marijuana for recreational purposes. New GLC 94G regulation of the use and distribution of marijuana not medically prescribed. The law, which allows certain personal use and possession of marijuana, took effect on December 15, 2016, and as amended on December 30th, 2016 by Chapter 351 of the Acts of 2016, and thereafter on July 28th, 2017 by Chapter 55 of the Acts of 2017, requires a Cannabis Control Commission to issue regulations regarding the licensing of commercial activities by March 15, 2018, and to begin accepting applications for licenses no later than April 1, 2018. Currently under the zoning bylaw, a non-medical marijuana establishment hereinafter a recreational marijuana establishment as defined in general law C-94G1 is not specifically addressed in the Townsend zoning bylaw. The regulation of the recreational marijuana raises a novel legal, planning, and public safety issues, and the town needs time to study and consider the regulation of the potential impact of the state regulations on local zoning, and to undertake a planning process to consider amending the Townsend zoning bylaw regarding the regulation of recreational marijuana establishments. This temporary moratorium on the use of land and structures in the town for recreational marijuana establishments will allow sufficient time to address the effects of structures and uses in the town and to enact bylaws in a consistent manner. A, definition. Recreational marijuana establishment shall mean a marijuana cultivar, independent testing laboratory, marijuana product manufacturer, marijuana retailer, or any other type of licensed marijuana-related business. B, the temporary moratorium. For the reasons set forth above, and notwithstanding any other provision of the zoning bylaw to the contrary, the town hereby adopts a temporary moratorium on the use of land or structures for a recreational marijuana establishment and other uses regulated to the recreational marijuana. The moratorium shall be in effect through December 31st, 2018, or until a bylaw is earlier approved. During the moratorium period, the planning board, on behalf of the town of Townsend, shall undertake a planning process to address the potential impacts of recreational marijuana in the town and to consider the Cannabis Control Commission regulations regarding recreational marijuana establishments, and shall consider adopting new zoning bylaws in response to these issues.
Motion, good job, John. Motion's been made and seconded. Yes. Yeah.
My name's Chris Noseller. I'm on the planning board. This basically, we're just asking for a little more time to write the laws. That's all we need. That's why we brought this up. Okay, guys? Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Nocella, thanks, but is that the planning board's report, or is there a report from the planning board on this bylaw, even though it's essentially asking to defer adoption of a bylaw? It is a bylaw in and of itself, and it looks like Ms. Johansson has her hand up. Okay, but before we get into questions, for this article to be properly before us and to be able to vote on it, we need a report of the planning board.
Okay, did you have one?
So, has the planning board held a hearing about this?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Kreidler.
I can advise that in having worked with the now departed staff member for the planning board, that a public hearing was held and the planning board voted in the affirmative to put this forward to town meeting.
And my understanding was that there was someone that was at least going to read the report for the planning board. Mr. McNally wasn't available. He had to leave. Okay. Just to preserve legalities here, then, Mr. Nocella, can you affirm the planning board held a hearing and voted in favor of this?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Any questions? My understanding is that that's the report, abbreviated. It'd be nice if we could get them all abbreviated like that, but the planning board has met and held a public hearing and voted to approve this bylaw. So, that being said, are there any other questions or comments? Ms. Johansson?
Just looking for clarification, the moratorium shall be in effect through December 31st or until a bylaw? I think I heard earlier bylaw? Early? So does that, I just wanted clarification that it's only going to be a moratorium until that date unless a bylaw is approved
That's correct.
prior to that.
I believe. Yeah. They added that earlier so that if, for example, at the annual town meeting in May, we adopt a bylaw, then you don't have the moratorium anymore. By the way, the state has said we can't take any more time than the end of this next calendar year to do it. Any other questions, comments? I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion of Article 8, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. All right. This is a zoning bylaw. It requires a 2/3 vote, so we might have a little more fun for the counters. I'll do it one more time. All those in favor of the article, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Well, it's my view that it is more than 2/3, and I will so declare it unless there is a challenge to that declaration. Okay. Is there anything else to come before the meeting? Do we want to adjourn to another date, or would we like to dissolve this meeting? All right. Motion's made to dissolve. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Meeting's dissolved. Thank you, everyone.